If you're a new player and you've been watching my channel lately, you've probably gone, what the hell am I watching? Not because I'm an idiot, of course, but because you don't know what a node war is. Well, let's solve that. In this video, I built a full guide on everything node war so that new players like myself know what they're getting into. But still, why should I trust that any of this is actually accurate? Because, Jeremy, I got this information from officers from the PvP Academy. They were kind enough to create a document that I'll link down below that talks about everything I'm going to talk about in this video and even more. So with all that in mind, let's jump right into it. Let's start off with what node wars actually are. Node wars are BDO's large-scale guild versus guild PvP mode where guilds and guild alliances fight for control of nodes on the map. Winning a node provides a few buffs to all the alliance members depending on the tier of that node. When I started Node Wars, I honestly expected it would just be 100 people smashing into each other until one team was left on top. Pause. This was partially accurate. In reality, there are a few more goals one is trying to accomplish to win. There are two types of Node War you'll encounter with different goals for each: occupation and construction. Occupation is kind of like a King of the Hill match. Multiple large towers, also called sticks, spawn on the map somewhere. Each of these sticks has a timer attached to it that counts down to 0. Once it reaches 0, it leaves to get milk. What? I used that joke in a previous video? You mean people pay attention to that? While the stick is active, you can beat the shit out of it to claim ownership of it. If you're the owner of it when the stick disappears, you then own the node that is associated with that stick. During this war, you're also allowed to place a few select buildings from things called annexes, but more on that later. The other type of war is construction. In this mode, alliances build bases using annexes to protect a fort, also known as a stick. Starting to see the pattern? Is it sticking yet? I'm losing my mind writing this guide. The goal is to destroy the sticks of all other guilds. It's very often that multiple guilds will drop into a single construction node, so teams are set up using what's called guild politics to ensure a better fight for everyone involved by coordinating who should team up with who. The guild that owns the last remaining fort is the winner. To help newer players jump into these fun node wars, there's also things known as capped wars. There are 3 types of capped content in BDO: T1, T2, and Siege. T1 node wars will always be occupation, and as of this video are played within Balanos or Serendia, whilst T2 node wars have the option to be either construction or occupation, and as of this video are played with Calpheon or Ulikita. Siege currently plays in Balanos, Serendia, Medea, and Valencia. Balanos caps for Siege are just a slightly nerfed version of T2 wars, while Serendia is just a straight rip of them. Both Medea and Valencia, however, are uncapped, meaning they don't have any limits. The main difference between Siege and the other two, though, is that HP is uncapped in all 4 areas. This doesn't matter much to me, though, as I get nuked uncapped or not. The only control I have is whether I punch my monitor with my left hand or my right. You may have noticed I said as of this video for the regions. That's because the regions associated with the caps are liable to change and do so often, so be sure to check your caps before heading into a war. To see them, open your map and filter to the Node War Information tab. Hover over a node and you should be able to view the caps for that region. Green means you meet the cap, whilst red means you're falling behind. You can modify your crystal setups and buffs to help meet those caps. But still, this information is good enough, but what am I supposed to be doing? Jeremy, you're back? You've never made 2 appearances in one video before? But a good question, nonetheless. There are 2 types of roles within Node Wars: team roles and class roles. Team roles are more focused on what a team's objectives are for that war, whilst class roles are more focused on what your class is more suited to be doing during that war. There isn't a direct correlation between team roles and class roles, but there are some classes that are more suited to specific teams. We'll start with the team roles. At the very top we have the shot caller. This is the single most important role in a node war. They are responsible for coordinating the alliance to attack and defend objectives, engage the enemy, and adapt the overall strategy as the war develops. Good shot callers should be level-headed and be able to work well under pressure. Next up is my team role, Main Ball. The Main Ball is the guild's primary fighting force. Think of them as the infantry of the alliance. Your job is simple: do whatever the shot caller tells you. That's it. If you're joining your very first node war, odds are you're going to be assigned Main Ball, and that's completely normal. After that, we have the defense team. They do exactly what you would think: protect the fort and flags. They will typically occupy flame towers and Hawaja, and will on occasion skirmish within their base to defend rebuilds. This team has their own lead known as the defense lead, who coordinates the defense team and keeps the shot caller updated on threats to the base. The other team with their own lead is the flex team. This team is typically filled with more advanced players that operate independent of the main ball. They can be used to flank enemy main balls, hunt destroy cannon teams, clear enemy flags, or anything else that may help disrupt the enemy guilds. The flex team lead, known as the flex lead, interprets the shot caller's orders and handles whatever side objectives the main ball can't focus on. Our final team is the cannon team. This team uses cannons to harass and destroy enemy annexes' defensive structures. They can also be used to support the main ball and engage the enemy, as cannons can CC through super armor. Aside from the teams, there are also 3 independent roles. First up is the flag bearer, also known as flag bitch. This role is in charge of using the flag factory to generate flags that provide a respawn point for the guild. A good flag bearer is always on time to pick up new flags and communicate with the shot caller when those flags are ready, how many they have, and when one has been placed. After that, we have the elephant riders. In Node Wars, there are only one of these, but in Sieges there are up to 3. This role is tasked with riding the Ellie to assist in attack and defense. Good Ellie riders keep track of their Ellie's health and stamina, always charge while moving, and always use 4 chops while standing still. Once the Ellie's health is low, they're also in charge of either snapping the Ellie or communicating to the defensive lead to snap it if they're unable to. Ellie deaths can be a massive hindrance to both offensive and defensive pressure, as it takes time to raise a new elephant in the nursery. Lastly, we have the crosscommer. This role is used primarily in construction wars when multiple guilds are allied in a team fight. The crosscommer is tasked with coordinating with the other guild's crosscommers to provide updates to each other's shot callers on ally fort health, combat status, requests for support, and general enemy information. Now that you understand the different team roles, we can talk about class roles. We firstly have frontliners. Frontliners are either very tanky, known as tanks, or have great health sustain, known as bruisers, and stand in front of the main ball to bully anyone dumb enough to step forward. Tanks are classes like Succession Corsair, who rely heavily on iframes and super armor to survive almost anywhere within a main ball. Bruisers are classes like Awakening Guardian, who can stay fairly protected but get most of their survivability from health regen skills. To make your frontline even stronger, we also have casters. Casters are used to support allies with things like Protected Area, Heal, and Speed spells. The only 2 casters in the game as of now are Wizard and Witch. Shy is in a bracket of its own and can also support the main ball with some insane buffs to attack speed, movement speed, BSR recovery, and much more. Getting Shy buffs is the BDO equivalent of if the Hulk decided it was bulking season and took massive amounts of steroids, so get them when you can. Next up, we have ranged classes, which are responsible for dumping massive amounts of damage from a distance to support their allies. A great example is Succession Ranger. These roles typically start in the front of the ball as they have many skills to push them backwards. Leading the charge, we have pre-engage classes, tasked with jumping in with huge AoEs, CCs, and debuffs before the main ball gets in to do damage. Classes like Awakening Valkyrie are great for this as they have vacuum skills to pull enemies together for easy cleanup from the main ball. Finally, we have flankers. This class specializes in hitting it from the back to disrupt the enemy main ball and deal massive damage. This is by far the most varied of all roles, as there are many different types of flankers, with some specializing in verticality while others specialize on invisibility and iframes. The example I'll give for this one is Awakening Musa, who can very quickly dash in, dump massive amounts of damage, and dash back out before the enemy ball can even react. Now that we've covered what Node War is and some helpful information about what you should be doing, let's get into annexes. As I mentioned earlier, buildings can be placed using annexes to help push your team closer to victory. An annex is essentially a multi-tool that allows you to place several different types of structures. I'm only going to mention the most notable annexes here, as most players won't ever use the rest, so check the document in the description for the full rundown. Firstly, we have recovery centers, which reduce the respawn time of guild members by 6 seconds each. You're allowed a maximum of 5 of these in T2 construction and 10 in Siege. Next up, we have supply depots. These structures are used to repair gear, recover, and take out your horses, and purchase much needed resources such as traps, annexes, and ammo. These structures are critical to a war and can severely degrade a guild's offensive pressure if destroyed. Second to last, we have elephant nurseries. These structures are used to raise Ellies that can CC through both super armor and frontal guard. Having an Ellie on your team, as I said before, can change the tide of the entire war. God, I sound like Dr. Seuss. Finally, we have the Indomitable Flag Factory. This structure is used to cook flags that the flag bearer uses for offensive respawns. Now all you have to do is not get cooked while trying to use the flag. Flags also generate 10 grid slots that allow you to place annexes around them. I want to make an honorable mention of flame towers and Hawatches, as you'll be seeing lots of these when fighting in Node Wars. Both of them can CC you through your super armor and frontal guard, so be careful of where you're standing. One final note I want to make on annexes before we leave them is that if you hear someone saying that a structure is a rebuild, it means that the structure was destroyed and has been replaced. These replacements start at 1 HP and must be defended until they are fully built. Now that we're actually done with annexes, let's briefly talk about traps. And no, I don't mean those traps, you sick fuck. There are 5 traps in total that each have a different use. Elephant traps, flame traps, stun traps, venom traps, and ankle traps. Elephant traps stun enemy Ellies and allow you to damage it without getting pimp slapped while also dismounting the rider. Flame traps do the same thing, but for horses. Stun traps lock enemy players in place, leaving them completely vulnerable to damage. Venom traps inflict a poison debuff that inflicts 600 damage every 2 seconds for 20 seconds total. And ankle traps inflict a minus 40% movement speed debuff for 10 seconds. All traps are invisible to enemies unless a flare is used, and you can have up to 3 traps placed at once. So you know what Node War is, you know what annexes and traps are, and you know what your team and class rules are. That should be it, right? Well, not exactly. If you want to be especially useful during war, then we need to cover a huge topic: buffs. Having the proper buffs can win or lose the Node War, and while these vary depending on what caps you're trying to meet, I'm going to mention the general ones that everyone typically uses. There are 4 types of buffs I'm going to mention here: tent, food, drought, and perfume. If you own a tent, it's vital that you purchase the Adventurer's Boon and Body Enhancement buffs. These are super helpful in pushing you towards caps if you don't meet them already. If you don't have a tent, don't worry, these buffs are available for free. The Adventurer's Boon can be obtained by any church by talking to the priest, priestess, or altar and purchasing it from them directly. The Body Enhancement can be purchased from any villa in Valencia by purchasing a villa invitation, and then the buff itself from the villa owner. These invitations only last 7 days though, so be sure to stock up if you can. As for food buffs, you really only need the Exquisite Cron Meal. This is the PvP version of the Simple Cron Meal. Ensure that you're using the proper one, as you'll be losing some major stat bonuses otherwise. When it comes to droughts, you have 2 options. The first is your typical choice, Harmony Human Drought. If these are too expensive for you though, there is always the Lesser Giants Drought. If you have the option, always use Harmony Human Droughts. Don't be cheap for the sake of being cheap. Lastly, we have perfumes. There are many options here depending on what caps you still need to meet, so you'll have to look at what buffs they apply to see what would work best for you. I can say that for Siege though, since HP is uncapped while everything else is capped, you might want to go for Deep Sea or Tenacity perfumes. It's important to mention that regular perfumes and droughts will expire after death and need to be reapplied. You can circumvent this, however, by purchasing an immortal version of it. Immortal perfumes and droughts do not expire after death, but are much more expensive, so choose based on how often you think you'll die. If you think it'll be every 2 minutes, consider immortals. If you think you'll die a max of like 20 times, buy the regulars. It's also very important to remember to turn on your alchemy stone, as this can also provide some really good buffs on top of the others. Now that you've spent over 2 bill in silver buying your buffs, I have yet another shopping list for you. You're going to want a T10 Pegasus for Node Wars. This is practically a requirement. If you're a new player, you can easily get this from the mythical horse box you're given at the beginning of the game. As for the rest of us that either chose wrong or are returning players, we have to obtain it ourselves. You'll also want a fairy with Miraculous Cheer 5 and Continuous Care 4 or higher. If you aren't lucky like I am, you may have to spend some significant time or money getting this one done. It's also important to bring plenty of HP and MP potions if you don't have your infinite ones already. You can also bring whale potions, as they're on their own cooldown and heal enormous amounts of HP. Whatever you bring your pots, be sure that you also correctly assign them to your fairy, or else they won't proc automatically. You also want to bring at least 100 polished stone, melted copper shards, and iron ingots, as these are used to repair defenses within the fort. You can also bring 10 to 20 annexes if you know how to use them, just in case the defense team needs help placing rebuilds. You should also bring at least 3 of each trap and 5 to 10 quick flares. If you have the silver remaining, you can also bring a Chenga's Tome to increase your discovery range by 150 meters. If you're over the caps, you can go a step further and bring an Acidol belt or necklace, or even both, that give you active skills to use in your hotbar. The belt gives you 80% of your BSR back, and the necklace gives an 80% super armor heal. These skills are only available at Tet though, so don't worry about it if you don't have them available yet. So you've studied hard, you've bought so many buffs that you're now homeless, and you're ready to get into the fight, right? Well, let's make sure. Firstly, you'll need to double check that you're yesed up for war on the correct server. First, ask your guild what server the war is happening on. Once you're in it, open the guild menu with G and go to the guild member status tab. Scroll down to your name and, under the participate column, change the no to a yes by clicking on it and accepting the prompt. If you don't do this, you won't be included in the war. Also take the time beforehand to double check that you have the correct crystal page, artifacts, light stones, skills, add-ons, and reforged stone page applied. You don't want to head into war with your PvE setup on. If you have the option, it can be super beneficial to record a VOD. These are one of the greatest tools you can utilize to become a better player, as experienced players can walk through your gameplay step by step to show what you can do better. Oh, and before I forget, there's one more buff that can be huge for you in your guild. It's called FPS. The more you have, the better you'll play. During wars, there can be a massive amount of players on your screen at once, causing your PC to start crying for help. You can reduce the strain through this magical system called settings. The best settings you can have are as follows. Texture quality should be set at high, as the game initially renders everything in high textures and will re-render it to lower textures, causing double rendering. Your graphics settings should be set to very low. Setting them to lowest optimal can cause the game to crash in certain situations, so use it at your own risk. You can also set your game to full screen to get those extra frames in. Arguably, the most important setting is remove others' effects. Effects on screen can kill your computer if you leave them on. Be sure that this setting is enabled to remove them. Another notable setting is hide other adventurers. Make sure this setting is not enabled or else you won't be able to see the enemy main ball. Shift F5 also toggles this setting, so be careful not to press it by accident. You can also turn up your field of view to max so you can see the most around you. If you want to take it a step further, you can also enable crop mode and lower the display height slider to both boost FPS and allow for a slightly more peripheral vision. Lastly, ensure your screen shake is turned all the way down. It'll be much easier to see, I promise. It's also recommended, but not required, to adjust your map settings so the view is top down, making it much easier to read the map. If you want to go the extra mile, you can also modify your UI to whatever suits your personal taste. Just be sure to save them once you're done. So you've done it. You've messed up and applied all the correct pages. You have buffs, a flashy new UI, min-max settings, and more. Now we can focus on the event we've been working so hard towards, the war. There are a few important things to keep in mind during the war. Firstly, always listen to your shot caller. It's their entire job to strategize the fight, so don't become another problem they need to solve. If they tell you to hard focus the ranger that used to frag them out 7 years ago at Sawsons, you do it. While following the shot caller, you may see colored pings painting the sky. Ask your guild what colored pings are for what meanings in case they use something different, but in general the following meanings are typically right. Green are your move pings, typically used by the shot caller to lead the main ball. Purple are your flex pings, used primarily by the flex lead to move the flex team around the map. If you're main ball, ignore the flex ping unless told otherwise by your shot caller. Yellow pings are for shy buffs. Shies are super short, so they ping themselves to let the team know where to go for their buffs. Once you've received buffs, get out of the way. Shy can only buff 10 players at a time, so don't take up that slot once you've been given them. Lastly are red pings. Any player should use these when they get a large amount of CCs to let the ball know where to strike. It's also important to pay attention to your minimap to keep track of where the ball is. If you see yourself getting separated, finding 1 or 2 enemies, try to regroup with your allies for better support. Don't let your ego get the better of you and lead you to a cave where you're just constantly losing 1v1s to the same guy over and over again as a seraph. While defending the fort, you may hear your shot caller yell to tap the fort. No, that's not what they mean, you absolute animal. What they mean is to use your polished stone to repair the fort. Your life skills affect how quickly you repair it, so be sure to level those up a bit in between wars. While repairing, it's important that you put your back to the fort so that enemies can't jump in and give you back shots for free. Also make sure that you're repairing the fort, not ripping it. Just pay attention to what button it tells you to press and you'll be fine. Maybe. You'll find out in about 90 seconds. If you're dealing with players on horses, you can use BSR skills to dismount them. This can be very useful for disrupting enemy regroups. If you aren't a class that utilizes your BSR very often, consider transferring it to another class that does. Your guild will typically outline which classes to target when transferring BSR, so just be sure to ask. Whenever you spawn in at the fort or on a flag, you can also keep your weapons stowed away for a brief invincibility period. This is super useful to regroup or move away from the fort before engaging as a group. Barricades, walls, flame towers, and hawachas can also be upgraded using 10 melted copper shards and 10 iron ingots. Use the extension prompt to begin upgrades. Upgraded annexes have more durability and enable the towers to do more damage. Side note, annexes cannot be upgraded in T1, so don't even try. If you're on the flex team, you'll need a Trina matchlock. These are used to dismount cannon crews from their cannons from a distance, specifically if they're hiding up in a tree. You can also bring along a Trina demolition axe to damage structures, but the attack is unprotected. Be sure you pay attention to where you are on the main ball as well. Try to keep up with everyone else, as if the ball starts to develop a tail, it can be disassembled very quickly. Now let's talk about some war tactics. There are 4 here that I'll mention. full dive, push-pull, pre-engaging, and flanking. Full dive is one of the simplest, as it just means to fully commit to damaging or destroying whatever objective your shot caller is pointing you towards. Push-pull is when your ball should engage, but keep a few movement skills ready to quickly disengage afterwards. The idea here is to whittle down the enemy by repeatedly diving, getting a few kills, backing off, and then just repeating the process. Pre-engaging is when classes with fast movement and massive AoE damage and debuffs jump into the ball first to prepare them for a follow-up from the main ball. Lastly, we have flanking, which is when you send your flank and assassin classes, typically your flex team, to wrap around the enemy ball and attack from the sides and back, leaving the enemy ball with little to no options for escape. But Seal, what about attacking forts? Jeremy, I'm gonna need you to not make this a habit. You're starting to piss me off. Again though, good question. When attacking an enemy fort, it's best to focus on damage for either the gate or 1 to 3 barricades to breach a hole in. Just be careful to not breach a hole in front of an FT, as it's the same as getting hit in the face with a bowling ball while climbing the stairs. From there, you can destroy recovery centers, supply depots, elephant nurseries, and flag factories to reduce enemy offensive pressure, or you can just go straight for the fort. While doing this, you can have your range classes focus on FTs and Hawatches to stop melee classes from being CC'd during this time. A fairly popular strategy is to use your horse charge to actually damage the fort down to 50% of health before dismounting and damaging it the rest of the way with skills. Just be careful when doing pushes with your allies, as they can still take damage from you. Congratulations! You have successfully made it through the war. Whether you won or lost, you fought a hard battle, I'm sure. It's important that you listen to your shot caller and team leads to see if they have any feedback on how things went. They can point out slow regroups and pushes, good and bad engages, and many other things. After they're finished, it's a good time to ask questions on anything you were unclear on during the war. As stated earlier, VOD reviews are one of the greatest tools you can use to improve as a player. It is strongly encouraged that you ask one of your experienced guildmates to go over your VOD with you to point out shortcomings and any useful tips to help you get better for future wars. One final thing to note is war heroes, also known as mercs. Mercs can be hired by guilds to bolster their ranks if they're unable to meet player caps. In order to merc into another guild, your guild cannot own a region or have a fort or command post placed. You also cannot have any guild items in your inventory and must be on the same server as the GM or officer sending you the contract. Mercs must yes up on the war hero page in the guild menu instead of the guild member status page. If you're still here after listening to me talk for more than 10 minutes, you officially learned all I can teach you. Here's my seal of approval. Use it well. Huge shout out to OiledUp and other officers for creating the document this video was based off of. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be leaving a link in the description so you can go check it out for yourself. It has so much useful information in there, with possibly even more than I talked about in this video if it gets updated in the future. As a final takeaway, just remember to have fun. Nobody expects you as a new player to be perfect. Most guilds just want you to listen, stay with the group, and learn. If you can do those 3 things, you will excel. As always, thank you guys for watching, have a happy Idle Ball, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.